there are a lot of people who are selling things, but they're not actually the embodiment of it. And that was a big piece for me. I feel like you've embodied that, just watching what you have been able to create for yourself, and then more specifically the other people who have been through the experiences, because I did my research and wanted to know what they got out of it. And it was across the board, the people who I had spoken to, they had said, Ree has a gift of really being able to extract the essence of someone's story, of someone's brand story. And I was like, that's what I need.
All right. Hey, everyone. Ree Perez here, CEO and founder of Branding for the People. And I'm excited to introduce my next guest as part of our video series, Juvan Langford. What's up, Juvan?
What's going on, brother? Good to be here.
Yeah, always good to be with you. And, here's the thing, like this man right here is an extraordinary human being. We instantly connected several years ago, I think at this point, when I was still living in San Diego. And it's just one of those opportunities where you come across someone and you just naturally hit it off. And not only have we developed a beautiful friendship, no matter where we are located in the world, but we had an opportunity to do some work together. And he gave me the opportunity to help serve him with what I do with regards to branding. So Juvan, why don't you share with the people listening in who you are and what you're up to in the world?
Yeah, I am so many things that normal is not. That's probably the easiest, but it's short of the long. But
I love it.
I proudly serve as the founder of The Mentor, which is a multinational and charitable organization headquartered in both Los Angeles and Sydney, Australia. And we are an organization that has an affinity for healing men. So whether that's with live events, that's with conscious content, that's with men's weekends, experiences, retreats, we kind of facilitate those experiences and give guys the space where they can kind of go through and really reframe and work through their personal and both professional challenges. So in essence, we exist to educate, equip, and empower men and leaders in the men's health and wellness space. Very, very passionate about the work as a former athlete and also model actor in the industry. I had a lot of vain and image conversations, and the branding and creative side of things, kind of the end of my career, and went from being in front of the camera to behind the camera and learned a lot.
Yeah.
It was really eye-opening to be able to enter into the space that was that weekend with you in the branding intensive. So it gave me a lot of insight, but I'm excited to dive into that.
Yeah, let's dive into that. So, I think one of the reasons why I was honored and thrilled to have the privilege to work with you is because of the work that you're doing in the world. This is not a common conversation. It's not, at least in my awareness, there's probably like a handful of people, men, that are really delving deep into raising the consciousness, expanding sort of what does it mean to be a man. And so we'll go more into that, but it was a pleasure to kind of work with you and what you stand for. So I think even now more than ever, it's even more important. I think it's always been important, but I think it's really coming to the forefront as sort of consciousness is elevating around the world. So so usually these are geared towards people who obviously want to get to know who you are, maybe get to know who we are, but what was the problem that you were looking to solve when you said, hey, I think I need to take a deep look at my brand? What was the problem that you were looking to solve?
We met at a time, or I entered the intensive at a time where we were in a big transition as an organization. We were expanding from the US into Australia. We were in the process of launching a new suite of products and taking some of our physical in-person events and experiences and making them online digitally. And we were going from working with boys in schools to now working with the men who were serving those boys, and also the other leaders who were working with men. And it was like so much new information that was coming through for me. I needed to make sense of the expansion. And, I think as, there's the business that we're in, then there's the brand of that business. And then there's me as a single personality brand. So I was confused as to what direction to go and where the focus should be. And I think for me, the biggest thing that was supportive was creating the brand platform, where it kind of broke down the archetypes and broke down the purpose and the promise and the values of the organization. And as I built out all those elements for the business, it made more sense for me as a brand as well. So it was like, I kind of got a double whammy, to be honest, being, I got a lot of my questions answered and some of my answers questioned. It's probably the best way to say it.
Yeah, I love that, and it's important for, especially for those people who that we talk to, that it's one of the top questions we get: should they build a personal brand? Should they build a business brand? And you actually came to me with already having a pretty a recognizable or established personal brand, if you will, and I guess in largely speaking, a business brand as well. But I think, as you were saying, a lot of this new information, this expansion. It's like, how do they all coexist, and how do they inform one another, and how do they how do they coexist with one another? So, okay. So that being said, we developed a friendship. Like I said at the beginning, we developed a friendship. But in addition to, what was the reason why you chose to go with me, with Branding for the People? Why did you decide to why were you enrolled in the Branding Intensive? Out of all the other options that you have, you're a smart guy, you've done branding, you could have done it yourself, but why did you decide to hire me and my agency?
Yeah, well, for those who don't know who you are, they would be wise to think that. But after spending some quality time watching you on stage at events, watching you and your consistency and the continuity of your branding, of what you're creating, and then also just, I'm an energetic person, and all those elements.
Yeah.
Really gave me, it built a lot of trust, because, as you build a brand, those who are really serious as myself with building a brand, it's my baby, this is my child, and I have been working on this for 9 years, and to let someone in the room and to hold my baby and to handle it in that way, it's very sensitive. It's a very sensitive conversation. So I felt trust. The other thing too, going back to what I was saying, as far as like continuity, like there are a lot of people who are selling things, but they're not actually the embodiment of it. And that was a big piece for me. I feel like you've embodied that, just watching what you have been able to create for yourself. And then more specifically, the other people who have been through the experiences, because I did my research and wanted to know what they got out of it. And it was across the board, the people who I had spoken to, they had said, Ree has a gift of really being able to extract the essence of someone's story, of someone's brand story. And I was like, that's what I need. And after having a 15-minute conversation with you, it was very evident that this was the direction for me to go. And it's been super valuable. And I've been able to take some of the lessons and actually share with other people, and tell them, you need to do this, and walking through some of the exercises that you walked me through. And it's like that value is being passed on. It's not just with me. So that's exciting for me.
I love that. First of all, thank you. I received the acknowledgement, and for me, it does feel like I'm on purpose with my business and my life, and so it's a really good to get that reflection back from you. And you could say that when people invest in working with me or my agency, yes, they're sort of getting the hand holding and the intimate working together, because it is a very private and intimate thing. This is your baby, as you said, but it's also knowledge transfer, right? It's sort of like passing on a way to think about branding that I believe that you pass on to other people in the community that you impact. So I love that response. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. And I think too, what begs me to say here, there are a lot of agencies right now that I could have went to. There are a lot of places and people that I know who are building, but I think it's about alignment, and that I want my brand to be so closely aligned with who I am. They're not separate. And for so long, I try to separate, like, this is that leg of the business and this is that leg. And I feel like the gift that your agency, like what you were able to bring, is to like bridge that. And it brought me back in alignment. I left that weekend feeling super convicted that I am right where I belong.
Yeah.
And I think that is what was missing for me. I knew I had the elements.
Yeah.
It wasn't all going down. It wasn't fluid. It wasn't really aligned. And I think that you were able to provide that because you have done the work on yourself and your own business to do that. And I admired that. And I went in there open-minded and open-hearted and got way more than I asked for.
Besides the group of people, like I like to ask this question, which you kind of touched upon, but what was about the process that made it effective for you?
Hmm. I am a visionary. So I always think big picture. So going into the space, in that first, I don't want to give away the workshop, but in the first, let's say the first leg of the workshop, you painted a very clear picture of the journey we were going to go on. And so I kind of went into it knowing like, okay, not getting ahead of myself because I knew what you were going to touch on, because I like to think big and I leap in that space. So I think you did a really good job of facilitating and setting very clear expectations and boundaries as to what we were going to do, and not leaving anyone behind. That was really helpful.
Okay.
And taking the time to personalize it within that group setting. It takes a lot of energy, and it takes a lot of focus to be able to do that, and so that people feel like they're being seen and heard in that space, but also getting value. So I think you did a tremendous job of that. And I think what else was helpful is the visual aids that you provided. Like, it was like I think I left with like 12 or 14 pages of notes. I was just like feverishly writing down notes and things that really landed. It was just very clearly communicated. Stories that you shared too of like case studies and other brands were super informative. Anybody who's really in a crux or wanting to pivot, they know it's time to pivot, because every brand must pivot. I don't know what, you probably have a better idea than me, but I feel like for every about 2 years I have this moment. I'm like, okay, I need to shift the languaging here. Like we're changing, we're evolving, and I don't want to resist it. You got to get back in the game and figure out what's working, what's not working, and be okay being committed but not attached to it. That's the best way to say it.
That's great. Actually, so you mentioned it, because this came into my awareness recently, which is, I guess it's an old concept, but it came into my awareness recently. But it's the idea of like, there's a distinction between finite games and infinite games. And Simon Sinek did a talk on this, where finite games, there's a set of players. There are sort of a set of established rules, and the objective of the game is to sort of win. And an infinite game, it's about some known and unknown players. The rules can change, and the objective of the game is to keep playing the game, is to have fun, to keep playing the game until you run out of the will or the resources to play the game. And so I say that because you mentioned the word game, and I think that when you talk about rebrand or evolving your brand every 2 years, you're evolving at rapid speed. The world is evolving at rapid speed. And so if you're not evolving your brand, you become irrelevant, you become static. And so I love that you take this evolutionary approach. And it's sort of common for someone who's a visionary like yourself to look at how can we take this brand to a whole new level. So I love that response.
Yeah.
Big advocate for the work that you're doing in the world. I look forward to seeing and hearing more of the success and the movement and the momentum that you're building, and pretty soon we'll hang out soon. So appreciate your time. Thanks, Juvan. Cheers, everyone.